good morning. Today is August 11th and my name is Christy Sprague. I'm a weed scientist here at Michigan State University, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the weed control challenges that we have in sugar beets. And primarily right now the biggest challenges that we have are with glyphosate or herbicide resistant weeds, and the two biggest ones are glyphosate resistant horseweed or mare's tail, and then also glyphosate resistant water hemp. And today we're going to look at some of our research trials where we're looking at different options to control both of these weeds. The first trial that we're at here is at the Michigan State University Agronomy Farm in East Lansing, Michigan, where we're looking at trying to integrate using a cereal rye cover crop with some different herbicide treatments. What I'd like to do now is introduce Brian Stiles. Brian is one of our research technicians here at Michigan State University, and he is working towards a master's degree, and this is one of the trials that he's looking at. So good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Christy. Thank you. So I'm standing here in my sugar beet plot. As you can see, there's a lot of horseweed behind me. Horseweed's a big issue in Michigan. A lot of this out here is spring emerging. And what we're doing is we're looking at cereal rye cover crops out here trying to suppress the horseweed with different herbicide applications of Stinger. As I said, this is my no cover plot. Behind me you can see we had just two applications of Roundup. Ahead of me here we've got two different strips where we had two applications of Stinger at 2 ounces, and then we have also another application at 6 to 8 leaf of 4 ounces. And those are the same all the way across the plot. Even with our two applications of Stinger, you can see that we still have some horseweed pressure in our plot compared to the other applications. I'm standing in the early burn down strip now. This rye was terminated 14 days before planting. You can see we still have mare's pressure. There's not much rye residue on the ground. This rye was approximately 8 inches tall at Feeks 4 stage when it was terminated. And you can see again here, we had two applications of Stinger and then one application followed, and then we also had two applications of glyphosate. So here I'm standing in the at plant burn down. In combination with this, we also had a few strips with the roller and roller crimper. You can see there's still some rye residue on the ground. Last year we've seen some pretty good results with this. The rye has provided some horseweed suppression with the Stinger applications. The last strip that I'll be showing today, this is the delayed burn down. This rye was terminated 1 week after planting. It was Feek stage 10, approximately 45 inches tall. And you can see here that the beets, they look similar in size now, but early season, the competition from the rye suppressed the beet growth a little bit, and we did see some negative impacts from that last year when it came time for sugar beet yield.
Well, thanks Brian for walking through those strips. Again, we're trying to figure out how we can integrate some of these different things and maybe get some better horseweed suppression. And as Brian mentioned, we had those where we only had one application of Stinger, and hoping that the horseweed would suppress that mare's tail early. So this will be the second year research that we have on this, and we're really looking forward to seeing what the yields are and what the overall results are, and we'll be reporting on that at the winter meetings, whether they're virtually or in person, and then also we'll have a lot of those results on our website, msuweeds.com. So we're up here in Shepherd, Michigan, looking at some sugar beet plots where we're trying to look at management strategies for water hemp. Water hemp is one of those weeds that all of a sudden we're seeing pop up around Michigan, and it's become a huge problem in a lot of our agronomic crops. Particularly we see it a lot in soybeans because it can go up above the canopy, and we're seeing more and more problems showing up in sugar beets. Over the last few years, we've been trying to do some different management strategies to look at what are some of the best treatments to control water hemp and sugar beets. When we look at the options that we have, a lot of what we're doing is trying to overlap residual herbicides or some of those pre-emergence herbicides. So things like metolachlor like Dual 2 Magnum or Outlook or potentially Warrant, and trying to apply those at a time when sugar beets or when the water hemp isn't up, so we're getting good pre-emergence control of those of the water hemp. So what we have here today is basically a study where we've designed it using some of the common herbicides that we can use now. So right here we have a sugar beet plot. It's really hard to actually see the sugar beets in here, but this had 2 applications of glyphosate. So you can see we have a very high population of water hemp and that it is very tolerant or resistant to glyphosate. What we talked about is using residual herbicides overlapping. So without a pre-emergence herbicide, we're kind of starting, hopefully trying to get that application on before the first water hemp comes up. What we have here are 2 applications of dual with no pre. So we're looking at the first application being at the 2-leaf beets and then about 6 to 8 leaf. You can see we have much better than control than the untreated, but we still have water hemp out here. So that timing of those residuals are going to be very important. So in addition to dual, we've also looked at 2 applications of Outlook. You know, we do see water hemp coming through. I wouldn't say it's any better or worse than dual. And we're also doing the same thing when we look at the next treatments, which are going to be 2 applications of Warrant. Again, none of these have a pre-emergence herbicide, so we're trying to get these residuals on before the first water hemp comes up. And typically in Michigan, we're seeing water hemp come up about that 3rd week of May. So if we're planting sugar beets early, probably just doing those overlapping residuals is going to do us pretty good. So we'll take a quick look at those Warrant applications, and then we'll look at what happens when we put some pre-emergence herbicides down and follow it up with those treatments. So in addition to, again, looking at dual Outlook, here's our Warrant plot. Again, no pre-emergence herbicide. I mean, we're seeing pretty darn good control compared to what the untreated is, but we still have some that escape. So again, I think the timing is extremely important on these residuals. And with our earlier planted beets, we're probably okay, but as we get later, we want to make sure we get those residuals on early. And one of the reasons that this is can be a problem is we have very few products that are actually labeled pre-emergence. And like I said, we looked at lower rates of dual, and hopefully we can get potentially a Section 18 or 24C, excuse me, to allow those applications in the future. The other thing that we did, instead of looking just at the post applications of these residuals, again, we put some pre-emergence herbicides down and then followed up with the post residuals. So what you see here, there are 4 different treatments that go back. All of these had ethofumicate at 2 pints applied pre, and then we came back either with 2 applications of dual, 2 applications of Warrant, 2 applications of Outlook, or we also looked at 2 applications of the ethofumicate post, and all 4 of those treatments worked great. So we've got almost 100% control here. Again, this is one of our replications, and you can see that it looks great compared to what we have for an untreated control. So in addition to looking at ethofumicate pre followed by those overlapping residuals, we also looked at that half pint of dual pre-emergence and did the overlapping residuals, and we also had extremely good water hemp control. Again, with these treatments, timing is going to be very important. We want to make sure that these applications are on before any of the water hemp has come up. So one of the other things that people always ask is, well, could Stinger actually control water hemp? Well, the plot I have right behind me is 2 applications of Stinger, 2 ounces followed by 4 ounces, which is kind of our general recommendation for horseweed control or glyphosate resistant horseweed control. And you can see we really don't get any water hemp control. So what we've done is we've tried to include those Stinger applications with overlapping residuals, whether it's with dual or Warrant. And the plot that I'm walking up to right now, this was actually Stinger plus Warrant at the 2-leaf stage, and then Stinger plus Warrant again at the 6 to 8 leaf stage. And you can see things look pretty good. So if you had both water hemp and horseweed, this is one way that we could potentially take care of it. We have duplicated this study at the Saginaw Valley Research and Extension Center, and basically to look at what effects some of these treatments have on sugar beet yields in more of a sugar beet growing region. Again, our results will be available at msuweeds.com, and we'll be talking about them throughout the winter. Thank you.